Yes, it's me with a suspiciously similar jumper from last week. I am probably off having pizza or doing something vaguely birthday related right now to kick off the birthday weekend. So in the meantime, you are stuck with past me, who is going to talk today about some of the similarities, differences, and just generally talking about screenplays versus manuscripts. As I've mentioned before, I am trained in writing screenplays. I've written 2 screenplays and a stage play, as well as collaborating on a second stage play. So first of all, I'll talk about some of the similarities. The first one is storylines, story arcs, and character arcs. In screenwriting, there are several models that you can follow, and they are tried, tested, they work very well. Hollywood really likes the Hollywood 3-act structure, and lots of films tend to follow that structure. It's a lot more open in literature and in writing manuscripts for novels, but the main principles are kind of the same. You will have high points, you will have low points. You may pick a hero's journey approach, where we go from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world and back again with our changed hero. You may have your Hollywood 3-act structure with your 3 acts and having your midpoint, your inciting incident, your point of climax, your act resolution, all of these things. You may even have your sequence approach, which is a broken down form of the Hollywood 3-act structure, where approximately every 50 pages or so in your novel manuscript, or every 15 minutes or so in your screenplay, you have some kind of decision that the character has to make, or some kind of event occurring. Sometimes you find there's a bit of a divide between film writers, playwriters, and novelists. That's always confused me a bit, because essentially you're all doing the same thing, just in a slightly different way. You're all telling stories. So you can learn things off each other, and you can think about how different media portray different things. So think about some of your favourite films, and hopefully the main story and plot points of that film will inspire you to add those kind of elements into your story. It's exactly the same with character archetypes. Character archetypes can be seen in any type of storytelling, whether it be on stage, on screen, or in a book. You still get that emotional punch from characters and certain plot points, no matter what media you are watching or reading or listening to. It's all still there. Now, the differences. So when you get a novel, you're getting the whole package. The novel is designed to paint the scene for you, put the characters in it, and tell the story, letting the events unfold. And as you move into new locations, meet new characters, you find out who they are, you find out what they're like, and they're also painted for you. There's also that complexity that you can get in a novel, because the only thing that limits you is your imagination and perhaps a word count. You don't have those other things to think about, such as budgets or time constraints or anything like that. So a novel is where you can potentially be most free with your inspiration. Screenplays and stage plays, on the other hand, are a whole different story. Screenplays especially are considered a technical document. They are not considered some piece of creative literature. A screenplay is designed to tell the director where he needs to put the actors, what the actors are saying, where they are. It gives indications to the cinematographers as to how the shot should be set up. It gives indications to the lighting and the sound as to what kind of ambiance should be set. Indications to costume and to makeup as to what they should do. The differences with the screenplay is that you're working as part of a collaborative project. A collaborative project that has lots of other experts involved. You're not expected to write mid-shot, close-up, panning, zooming in your screenplay. That's patronising to the person who has spent their life working on how to get the most effective shot for the best time. So instead, you just focus on your element, telling and describing a little bit of the story, and then the dialogue. So you briefly set the scene, just to give almost a list of instructions to the people who will actually be setting up the scene. You give a brief description of characters so they know who to cast, and then you provide the dialogue for them. Don't get me wrong, in a screenplay, as in a novel or in a play, the dialogue is one of the last things you put in, and is one of the briefest things that you put in. You should not have a huge amount of dialogue in your work. But that's what you're providing. You're providing the tools for them to make the story. You're not the storyteller from start to finish. You're providing that initial concept that then they will take and turn into whatever they need to. This is why the book or the film was better debate is a little bit null and void, because the two texts are two entirely different pieces of writing that fulfill different purposes. Let's take an example. So The Hunger Games. Suzanne Collins wrote an excellent book. It's in first person. You're getting this immediate emotional punch of energy from this character. You feel everything she feels. You go through everything she goes through. It's painful, it's powerful, and it's wonderful. The descriptions are there. You're seeing it through her eyes. And only in a book could you get that real sense of immersion. Then you move to the films. Very, very successful films. But immediately, there's no way of comparing them, because the novel's written in first person, and unless you film the whole film in POV, you're not going to get that same sense of immersion with it. The film also has cost issues to consider. It has time constraints to consider, so things will be cut out. They're also thinking about future films, and they're thinking about the things they may have to cut out of those. This is obviously very specific to a kind of franchise like this, but if they're going to cut something out of a later film, they need to make it less important in the first film, so that it's not completely integral in this one, and then as soon as you move to this one, then it's cut. Another thing to remember is that a film is someone's artistic vision of a piece of writing. That's exactly what you do every time you read a book. Unless you have exactly the same mind as the person who has created this vision of this book, then you're going to disagree with some aspects of it, which leads people to feel like the book is always better than the film. And in truth, most of the time it probably will be. Not because the film isn't well made, not because the film isn't a fantastic film, but if you're going to compare them, the book will always win, because you have your own personal bespoke film version in your head that the writer has helped you to create. A film takes away some of that individuality for you. So when you're looking for writing inspiration, look at films and look at books. They're both equally viable in terms of storytelling, characters, setting the scene, lots of other things. But remember that when you're writing a book, you have to provide all of those things. Whereas if you're writing a screenplay, you just provide the bare bones and everyone else fills in the rest. I found this when writing some of the chapters of my book. I've given them to my husband to read over, and I get back notes that say more description needed here, more description needed here, set the scene here, do this. And I've just written the bare bones, when in actual fact I need to fully flesh it out. I know that we're in a house and it's opulent, but how is it opulent? What is there to show that? Look for inspiration from these two sources, but as kind of a side note, try not to compare them, because they are incomparable, and it's not fair to consider one as being better than the other when they are so entirely different and serve different purposes. I don't really know what the title of this is going to be, because it's kind of just a ramble. The point that I'm getting across is, don't feel like if you're writing a book that you should just stick to help books and advice that are designed for book writers. Look at the screenplay stuff too, because it all helps. And there's no hard and fast rules in this game, so if you get inspiration from your screenplay books and then write yourself a novel as a result of it, then great, you've got yourself a novel and no one's going to question how you got there. That's all from me for this week. If there's any videos that you want to see, any writing advice, hints or tips, or just writing updates and chats, then please leave me a comment in the comment section below or tweet me. And I will see you next Friday. Goodbye!